Welcome back to the channel, guys. Have y'all heard of Feeding Our Future? Well, if you haven't, they were supposed to be a nonprofit organization that was supposed to feed hungry school-aged children during the COVID pandemic. But instead of doing that, they used their business to massively enrich themselves. So this information right here is on the ringleader who orchestrated everything with this scam. So Savage woman pleads guilty for her role in $250 million feeding our future fraud scheme. Minneapolis. A Savage woman pleaded guilty for her roles in the fraud scheme that exploited a federally funded child nutrition program during the COVID 19 pandemic, announced acting U.S. Attorney Lisa D. Kirkpatrick. According to court documents, Ayan Farah, Abukar, and her co-defendants, which by the way, there are 70 of them, 70 co-defendants, participated in a massive scheme to defraud the federal child nutrition program by obtaining, misappropriating, and laundering millions of dollars in program funds that were intended as reimbursement for the cost of serving meals to children. The defendants exploited changes in the program intended to ensure underserved children received adequate nutrition during the COVID 19 pandemic. Rather than feed children, the defendants enriched themselves by fraudulently misappropriating billions of dollars in federal child nutrition program funds. According to court documents, Abukar was the founder and executive director of Action for East African People, a nonprofit which she enrolled in the federal child nutrition program under the sponsorship of Feeding Our Future and Sponsor A between October 2020 through 2022. Abukar falsely claimed to be serving as many as 5,000 children a day at her various sites in Bloomington, Minneapolis, Savage, and St. Paul. I thought they were calling her Savage, but I didn't know there was a city named Savage in Minneapolis. Well, in wherever this is. In total, Abukar fraudulently received approximately $5.7 million in fraudulent federal child nutrition program funds. As part of the scheme to defraud, Abukar also paid more than $330,000 in kickbacks to a Feeding Our Future employee. Abukar spent millions on real estate, including a 37-acre commercial property in Lakeville, and spent hundreds of thousands of dollars to purchase an aircraft in Nairobi, Kenya. That's the first. Never heard of someone buying a plane, but this is our first. The case is the result of an investigation by the IRS Criminal Investigation and the U.S. Postal Inspection Service. So pretty much, she hasn't been sentenced yet because there was actually something that happened during the trial where she tried to bribe one of the jurors for $120,000. So they replaced that juror, and now they are going into deliberation with how much time they should give her. But just to give you an idea on how much time she could possibly see, here's information on someone else, on one of her co-defendants. A Bloomington man has been sentenced to 217 months, which is 17 years in prison, followed by 3 years of supervised release for his role in a $250 million fraud scheme that exploited a federally funded child nutrition program during the COVID 19 pandemic, announced acting U.S. Attorney Lisa Kirkpatrick. The defendant was also ordered to pay restitution in the amount of $47,920,514. The defendant committed a brazen fraud that shamelessly stole taxpayer money intended to feed children during a global pandemic. He lined his pockets here and abroad with millions, said acting U.S. Attorney Kirkpatrick. As the court found, he doubled down on his crimes by obstructing justice. This significant sentence should serve as a clear warning to anyone who would seek to exploit and defraud government programs. You will be held accountable. As proven at trial, Mukhtar Mohammed Sharif and his co-defendants devised and carried out a multi-million fraud scheme to defraud the federal child nutrition program. As the chief executive officer of Afric Hospitality Group, Sharif obtained, misappropriated, and laundered millions of dollars in the program that were intended as reimbursement for the cost of serving meals to children. The scheme was accomplished by exploiting changes in the nutrition program intended to ensure underserved children received adequate nutrition during the COVID 19 pandemic. Sharif and his co defendants created and submitted fraudulent meal count sheets purporting to document the number of children and meals served at each site, and false invoices purported to document the purchase of food to be served to the children at the site. The conspirators also submitted fake attendance rosters purporting to list the names and ages of the children receiving meals at the site of each day. These rosters were fabricated and created using fake names. The Federal Child Nutrition Program, administered by the U.S. Department of Agriculture. And this is actually the first time I ever hearing about this. I didn't even know they had this program during the pandemic. Is a federally funded program designed to provide free meals to children in need. The USDA Food and Nutrition Service administers the program throughout the nation by distributing federal funds to state governments. In Minnesota, the Minnesota Department of Education administers and oversees the Federal Child Nutrition Program. Meals funded by the Federal Child Nutrition Program and served by sites. Each site participating in the program must be sponsored by an authorized sponsor organization. Sponsors must submit an application to NDE for each site. Sponsors are also responsible for monitoring each of their sites and preparing reimbursement claims for their sites. The USDA then approves MDE federal reimbursement funds on a per meal basis. MDE provides those funds to the sponsoring agency, who in turn pays the reimbursements to the site under its sponsorship. The sponsoring agent retains 10 to 15% of the funds as an administrative fee. During the COVID 19 pandemic, the USDA waived some of these standards requirements for participation in the Federal Child Nutrition Program. Among other things, the USDA allowed for profit restaurants to participate in the program, and it allowed for off site food distribution to children outside of education programs. Following a 7-week trial in the U.S. District Court before Judge Nancy E. Brazel in June 2024, Sharif was convicted of one count of conspiracy to commit wire fraud, one count of wire fraud, one count of conspiracy to commit money laundering, and one count of money laundering, and handing down the sentence. No, in handing down the sentence today, Judge Brazel commented that Sheriff's conduct showed a staggering lack of respect for the law, and that taxpayers were outraged by the brazeness of the crime. Yeah, so he got 17 years in prison. 23 of the 70 people pleaded guilty. 5 of them were found guilty, and the rest haven't been charged yet. But the ringleader, which this woman right here, is probably going to get at least 20 years in prison because she's the one that orchestrated this entire thing. But I'm going to keep you updated on this because there's a lot of information coming out on all these people who were part of this program. So make sure you guys to the like button, subscribe to the channel, and we'll see y'all next time.